20 minutes. So today's plan of presentation is introduction, then how we can convert from waste to energy, then energy from the biomass, then biomass pyrolysis, biomass gasification, and the different routes of biological routes for the hydrogen production, and then conclusions. So this is what is the situation nowadays, and what will be the consequences. The consequences will be air pollution, water pollution, land contamination, climate change, diseases, public nuisance. So there are various problems. The solution, all of you know, now we have a lot of waste generated by the different sources. So the solution is, can we convert that waste to the some means, that is heat, fuel, power. So if you have to produce the heat, you can directly incinerate it, you will get the heat. Another is, you can generate the power and you can also convert that in form of fuel. So now our major target in this talk is how we can convert the waste to a fuel which provides us the clean and green energy. So these are the different forms of energy, different sources, non-renewable energy, and all of us are aware that most of the sources are not depleting, and maybe there will be a situation after 20, 30 years or 40 years we do not have these sources or sufficient sources. Now the focus is now moving towards the renewable energy, the energy from the solar, wind, geothermal, water. But we have a major problem of the solid waste, that is called as the, which some part of that waste is called as a biomass. Can we convert this biomass into a form of hydrogen, which is nothing but a secondary energy source? So what is biomass? Everyone, we know that is a biologically produced living matter which mainly consists of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and it is also considered as a fuel if it has a major quantity of the organic material, and it is also a renewable and sustainable source of energy used to create electricity or other forms of power. So these are the different sources of the biomass, like majorly industrial residues, agricultural residues, sewage, municipal solid waste. So these are the different sources. Now why we should convert that biomass into hydrogen? The question is, why to convert it into the hydrogen? Why not directly incinerate it and get the energy? That may not be a good idea, because you are also creating a secondary pollution. Okay, so basically it is one of the most abundant renewable resources. The biomass is available in a huge quantity. Then it has also accelerated because of that it can be a major source for the fuel to produce the hydrogen. Now also it is the important thing is, when the biomass is generated, it utilizes the CO2 in the process, and when it is burnt, it releases the CO2. So ultimately there is the zero emission of CO2. It leads to the zero emission of CO2. So it can reduce the global warming problem. Hence, it is a CO2 neutral resource in its life cycle. It can have a small net CO2 impact compared to the fossil fuels. So what are the different techniques by which we can convert the biomass to hydrogen? There are two routes. One is the thermochemical process and another one is the biological process. In thermochemical process, you have a combustion, pyrolysis, liquefaction and gasification. In the biological routes, direct biophotolysis, indirect biophotolysis, biological water gas shift reaction, photofermentation, dark fermentation. So I will not go into the detail of each technique, although it is there in the slides, but I will just give you a brief outline. So what is the problem with the combustion and the liquefaction? The combustion is, you can directly burn the biomass in air. That energy efficiency is very low. You are able to produce only 10 to 30% of the energy. The pollutant emission, as I mentioned, the problem is the secondary pollutants, and not a suitable hydrogen production for sustainable development. The major production is the CO2 and H2. In this technique, where liquefaction, it is a biomass is heated to 525 to 600 Kelvin in water under a pressure of 5 to 20 megapascal in the absence of air. Here you can also use the catalyst to the process. The major difficulty is to achieve those operating conditions, and again the problem is the low hydrogen conversion. So basically we have techniques like pyrolysis, gasification and the biological hydrogen production, which are more suitable for the hydrogen production. So what is pyrolysis? Basically it is a heating. You can heat the biomass at a temperature in the range of 650 to 800 Kelvin at 0.1 to 0.5 megapascal in the absence of air. The pyrolysis is done in the absence of air and the gasification is done in the presence of air. That is the basic difference in these two. You have three kinds of products. When you do this, you have liquid products which include the tar and oils that remain in the liquid. So basically the pyrolysis is used to produce the biofuels in a liquid form. Solid products composed of char and almost pure carbon plus other inert material. And in gaseous compounds you have hydrogen, CH4, CO, CO2 and other gases. And this is the flow diagram where you do the pyrolysis in the absence of air. Here you have a vapor and liquid because it is a high temperature process, so most of the liquids are also present in a vapor form. Now what you can do if you have to produce the hydrogen, because the hydrogen quantity when you do the pyrolysis is very small. So you can increase the quantity by doing these vapors can be treated further. Here you can treat by the steam reforming, you can use the water gas Sept reaction to convert more and more hydrogen. And liquids also you can do the condensation for those vapors, so the liquids will be the products, and these gases, further those gases can also be combusted and again utilize this heat to conduct the pyrolysis. It is also further classified into slow and fast, but slow pyrolysis means the slow heating rate and at low temperature, which is not favorable for the higher quantity of hydrogen production, and it also leads to the lot of amount of the tar formation. So basically we go for the fast pyrolysis, which is a high temperature process, and the heating rate is also high. The major reaction for the pyrolysis is biomass plus heat, which produces hydrogen, CO, CH4 and other products. Further, these gaseous products like CH4 can be converted to CO plus H2. So you can further convert this CH4 to H2 by steam reforming. Then again this CO can be converted to H2 by the water gas Sept reaction. So ultimately you are releasing the CO2 and getting the hydrogen as a fuel at the last. This is, I will skip. Now what are the parameters which are majorly affecting the pyrolysis is temperature, heating rate and resistance time. As I mentioned, the fast and slow pyrolysis, and also sometimes we use the catalyst. For hydrogen production, the high temperature, high heating rate and long volatile phase resistance time are required, means more resistance time but higher heating rate and the high temperature. The scope in this pyrolysis is, now people are working on the area where, because the major problem of the pyrolysis process is the tar formation. How we can reduce the tar formation and convert it into the valuable products. So people are working in the decomposition of the tar by use of the low cost catalyst. Another process which is happening in the presence of air is biomass gasification, and it is again high temperature process which is mainly done at above 1000 Kelvin. In this, the biomass particles undergo partial oxidation resulting in gas and charcoal production, and the charcoal is finally reduced. So there are steps. In these steps, first partial oxidation where some gases and charcoal is formed. After that, this charcoal is converted to gaseous form. So the overall reaction is biomass plus heat plus steam plus air, which produces hydrogen, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, CH4 plus light and heavy hydrocarbons plus the char. Aims here, the major aim is to get completely the gaseous products. So this is a schematic diagram of the whole process where you have a gasifier, steam is also put, air, there are two options, either you can feed directly the air, but if you are directly feeding the air into the gasifier, then nitrogen will be there throughout the process. So either you can separate out the oxygen and put oxygen, so ultimately you will get only the hydrogen and CO2 at the end. Otherwise nitrogen also will be there. So in the gasifier we burn the biomass, the majorly we get synthesis gas CO, CO2, H2, H2, H2S. Then you can do the gas cleanup where we remove the sulfur and the sulfur is recovered. Then you have a shift reaction where this CO is converted to the hydrogen, and you have a CO2 absorber where the CO2 is absorbed, and finally you have a pure hydrogen at the end. There are different type of gasifiers used, updraft gasifier, downdraft gasifiers. Only the difference in this, how you introduce the air. So major issues in the biomass gasification is to deal with the tar formation. It may cause the formation of tar, aerosols and polymerization to more complex structure, and which is not favorable for hydrogen production. Minimize the tar formation. Now how we can minimize that? That will be based on the proper design of gasifier. So as we have seen two types of gasifier, there are many types. Okay. So initially the updraft gasifier, now we have a downdraft gasifier which reduces the tar formation. So proper design of gasifier, then proper control and operation, and you can also use the additives and catalysts. These are the operational parameters: temperature, gasifying agent, residence time. They are playing the important role in the formation and decomposition of the tar. Now there is some modification where, so this is a novel gasification method. There are, all the methods have integrated and perform in one reactor, and the final output will be the hydrogen. So they have a high pressure reactor, and this water cleanup, absorbent reagent, regenerator, everything is merged within this. So the overall reaction integrated, and it produces only the CaCO3 plus 2H2. So H2 is in a pure form. We will not go to the detail because time is short. Now there is a different route, that is a biological route, and we have as I mentioned, there are 5 techniques of hydrogen production through the biological route. All of us know the microbes are full of surprises. You can utilize the microorganism and produce whatever the material you want to produce. So here we have different type of microorganisms which can produce the hydrogen naturally by the natural process. Only the problem of the biological hydrogen production is the low yield. So as I mentioned, the biological hydrogen production processes are becoming important mainly due to they can utilize renewable energy resources. They are usually operated at ambient temperature, and all other like gasification or the pyrolysis are required high temperature. They require less energy and are less expensive. However, the major constraint is the commercialization of these processes, because it has a lower hydrogen yield and rates of hydrogen production, lower rate of hydrogen production. So there are 5 processes. In all the processes, there are 2 enzymes which majorly plays a role, that is a hydrogenase and nitrogenase enzyme. In whether it is a direct biophotolysis or it is an indirect biophotolysis. So in a direct biophotolysis, it utilizes the solar energy and photosynthetic system of algae to convert water into chemical energy. So the water is split into hydrogen and oxygen. There is a mechanism like how the H2O is first converted to the 2 hydrogen plus and electrons, and then the enzyme utilizes those 2 electrons to combine the 2 atoms of the hydrogen in a form of hydrogen, H2. Similarly, indirect photolysis, where in step 1 The cyanobacteria, again it's a algae, assemble water and CO2 into the glucose and oxygen through a complex process by photosynthesis. So first it forms the glucose, and then in a second reaction, it further converted to the 12 molecules of the hydrogen. So it breaks down. Third is the water gas shift reaction. This is based because of the specific microorganism. So they can utilize the CO as its sole carbon source to grow, because CO also has a carbon, and every species required a carbon source for growth. So this growth occurs both in the light and in the dark. So the dark reaction, which has the additionally property of splitting water and oxidizing CO. So further it is oxidized by the microorganisms, that CO plus H2O, and produces the hydrogen. In the photofermentation and dark photofermentation, again the similar reaction, but there are different microbial species which are responsible for those reactions. So as I mentioned, mostly the mechanism is same, only it is because of the two enzymes present in the either algae or the microorganisms like hydrogenase and nitrogenase, but only the reaction paths are different. So this is what, and then I will directly come to the conclusions, where the increasing industrial activities for energy production in all over the world lead to the environmental pollution. As you have seen, there is a solid waste. Hydrogen is found to be an energy carrier in a reliable and sustainable energy supply system, and biomass has a potential, a reliable renewable energy resource for hydrogen production. So the thermochemical pyrolysis and gasification hydrogen production methods are economically viable. However, now the biological hydrogen production are also taken, because everybody is working on the environmental friendly system. So these are also coming in big way, and only the problem which is the less yield, which may be sorted out later. Here are some references.